Welcome to the O Podcast, also known as the Only Women Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Rosemary Cescolini, former high school English teacher turned successful entrepreneur who entered into a male-dominated field of manufacturing, where I began a career in woodworking at Royal Door Limited, a family-owned and operated business. There, for over 30 years, I personally envisioned, designed, and built custom handcrafted wood doors for thousands of people across this great country. Now, I run O, an organization dedicated to providing empowerment and direction to young women as they consider entrepreneurship and alternative professions, from culinary, mining, manufacturing, and construction to everything in between. Here, you'll discover the lessons and wisdoms from successful women who have taken charge of their own lives. Our guest today is Allison Ober-Barker. Alison is a dynamic and resilient force in the world of construction and steel fabrication. From teaching snowboarding in Collingwood, Ontario, to a decade spent as a stay-at-home mom, she embraced diverse roles before returning to her family's business, Norak Steel Construction Ltd, in 2020. Initially expecting a part-time administrative position, Alison found herself taking on substantial responsibility as project coordinator and signing officer. Navigating this journey, Alison encountered challenges familiar to many women in her field. Yet, she emerged stronger with a resolve to make a lasting impact in the steel industry. Her story is a source of inspiration for aspiring female entrepreneurs and women who would like to pursue alternative careers in the steel industry, showcasing the importance of confidence, continuous learning, and resilience. Hello, Alison, and welcome to the O Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, we'll start off with a bit of your educational background. You want to fill our audience in?
I do. So I have my honors in commerce from the University of Guelph. I graduated from there in 2008. Thinking that I wanted to be a caterer, but that all kind of changed. After university, I went to culinary school. I got my basic chef training certificate and then decided that hospitality was, at least in a private chef capacity, was not for me. So I went and worked for the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. I was the food and beverage supervisor at Black Creek Pioneer Village, the on-site supervisor for all of their weddings and social events, their corporate events, as well as running their restaurant and snack bar.
Nice.
It was quite a big role, but that's okay.
I bet.
Yes, there's a lot that goes on there. But after becoming pregnant with my daughter, she was born in 2010, I decided that going back to that sort of industry was just not for me. It wasn't really conducive to a family. So I was home for 10 years and then came back to my family's company, as you said.
That's wonderful. And any other work experiences in between?
No, before that, as you mentioned, I taught snowboarding up in Collingwood part-time for 10 years and then full-time for 1 year. And that was kind of as I went through university.
Okay. That's a very diverse experience, both in education and also work history. So it brought a lot of new things to your family business. So we're going to see how you applied them to it on your responsibilities. How did you make your journey toward becoming the project coordinator in the steel construction industry as opposed to just the office administrator?
Yeah, so I came here hoping for, 3 to 4 days a week where I was just kind of helping out where needed. I came back right in the middle of COVID. I started in October of 2020, which was very difficult because my children at the time were school aged, and with all of the shutdowns, they were doing their education in our boardroom here. But I kind of came back just hoping to have that not really a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. And just over time, it grew into something where my dad, who was the president, took a step back and I was kind of the on-site leader. But in the meantime, we hired a new president. But getting into it, it was really just people started coming to me because as my dad was the president, when he wasn't on site, they needed someone who represented him, really. And as that person, there were a lot of questions, a lot of phone calls happening between my dad and myself. And then you just kind of grow into the role. It kind of takes a whole new journey and it brought out a whole new personality in me, really, going from someone who wasn't very confident in that role to someone who is now able to make those decisions.
Well, that's fantastic to hear how you evolved. And it's always good to have a mentor, even though in this case it was your dad, a family member. Mentors play a very important role for anyone learning something that's new. And obviously, you fell into a great opportunity and you had a great mentor. And look at you now. You're confident and you got a large organization that you have quite a bit of responsibilities there, I bet.
So there is quite a team that stands with me here, and without every single person bringing me along, I don't think that I would be in the position that I am now. But I mean, I also think when I came into this position, because I didn't have the education or the background in steel, aside from, I worked here as a teenager, but only in the admin position, it was there was quite a growth spurt and quite a steep learning curve to get into it. But every single person on our team has really been beneficial and integral in me getting to this point.
Yeah, that's true. One aspect about being a business owner, you can't fulfill all the roles. And I'm glad you mentioned that you have a team behind you because they're all specialized in some aspect of the business and they're there to guide you and provide the resources so that you can make the right decisions to run the company properly. We can't do it on our own. Absolutely not. So I'm happy to hear that you have a team that's behind you and supports you every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience, what opportunities exist for women in the steel construction industry in general?
So actually, it's interesting because when I was at our industry meeting, we had it in Ireland this year, and the number of women that I met there who are really just getting into this industry, it was really inspiring to see. Normally you go to these industry meetings and a lot of the time it's mostly men, and I'm one of the very few women in there. But now I'm seeing a lot of the younger generation get into it, especially people just coming out of college or coming out of university. And some of these people have just really fallen into the industry and just kind of, the right place at the right time. But you have young women who are not only engineers and detailers, but you also have people we have a female welder on one of our sites at the moment, and she has won several awards for her welding, and which is really great.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and at our Canadian International Steel, CISC, Canadian International Steel Construction, they have a meeting every year, and last year the presenter was one of the female shop foremen from one of our competitors, which was incredible. It was the first time that we'd had a woman host the event.
Wow, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of trade schools are seeing more women get into it because I know we all know that there are so many jobs in the trades. So steel industry does have the opportunity for them, and I think it's becoming much more of an equal playing field as far as women and men go.
So have you been experiencing shortages? I know with the pandemic, everybody's been complaining that they haven't had enough of a labor force to have full production going at a regular basis. How is it in your industry?
So we have been speaking with a lot of our colleagues in the industry about this, and just like every other industry that I know, we do have some shortages. It has been difficult hiring people, and not only hiring them, but getting them through the training procedures. And it can be quite a dangerous industry with the weight of the material that we are moving around on a regular basis. So I think a lot of people are having a struggle with the safety requirements as well. So we find that we end up with people who are interested in the positions that we're hiring for, but then unfortunately they leave us shortly after.
Oh, that's terrible. I think retention is a big issue with all the industries across the board. And I don't know, it's great to hear that there's opportunities, but I think there's a significant gap between what's offered in the schools and what's offered, for employers to properly train and not only attract women to the industry. But again, training them properly and then retaining them, I think those are significant challenges that we need to work on. So one thing I think we need to unite on this front is perhaps working with the government at our level, and to see if we could kind of have some input in the curriculum. Like, what would you like to see in the school curriculum where we can start encouraging young women to pursue alternative careers, perhaps in the steel construction industry? And then at that point, what do you want to see in the colleges to ensure that proper training does happen and that we were able to not only attract but also retain these young women?
In the high school curriculum, I think that there definitely are gaps. I remember when I was in high school, we did have some programs that were within the trades, with woodworking or with the automobile industry, or we even had a plastics lab at my high school. But all of those have since been phased out. And I think
Right.
it's difficult to generate interest in these types of industries if you don't have access or availability to them. So even designing the programs not only for business administration, which
Mm-hmm.
the highlight when I was way back then when I was there, but also having these hands-on access to these trades before you even go into a school, or having, not necessarily trade shows, but during the education fairs, having a better representation of these programs that are out there. I know there was a big push way back when that, everyone went to university, but now we end up in a situation where we don't have nearly enough people in the trades, and especially a representation of women. So as far as government goes, I think there are so many programs out there that people can take advantage of, but I think this is just one of those sectors that
Mm-hmm.
we kind of have like the gap there. Um, so I don't know how to get through to the government. It's not something that up until this point I have gone through, but I would be happy to be engaged in that and moving forward.
That sounds wonderful because I'm getting a lot of positive feedback with many of the guests that I've had on the show already. They're willing to work with the government, and I'm starting to pry open the door in the Ministry of Education, especially with our representative Stephen Lecce. He's got a lot of great ideas. He is very much aware of how many shortages there are, and it's causing a lot of supply issues as well as inflation, because when you can't get your product at a reasonable amount of time and you have to, pay people extra money to work overtime, costs accumulate very quickly. And, goods are starting to become out of the reach of ordinary Canadians. So it's very much of a concern, and it's something that needs to be addressed right away. So I'll keep that in mind when I do. When I am in contact with him. As a project coordinator and signing officer, you've referred to yourself as something like a jack of all trades. Could you elaborate on the diverse roles you handle?
Yes, so there's a second portion of that. I say that I'm a jack of all trades but master of none. So I came in as, the project coordinator, so really working with our project manager, who has been absolutely incredible to work with here. But working with them as well as with our subcontractors, like our detailers and our connection designers and our erectors on site, as well as working with the general contractors. But as the daughter of the business owner, I tend to get pulled in a lot of different directions.
Mm,
We do have a rather small office. There are only, I think, 9 of us within the office, and then we do have someone who works off-site.
right.
So when we have so many roles but so few people, when we have someone who goes on vacation, I tend to fill in for that person as best I can, and it comes with a lot of pivoting and a lot of inventive ways of doing their jobs
Right.
and a lot of interesting ways of getting to that final destination of what needs to be done. It may come in a circular way rather than a linear, but I have not mastered them all. I am learning all of the roles, but I have not mastered all of them yet.
Well, being at the position you're at, it's every day you're learning something. It's impossible to go a day without learning a new skill, some information, and that way you get better at it. And like you said, it's hard to master everything because you are pulled in so many directions. And I can imagine how busy and how you have to be plugged into so many things at once, right?
It's true. It is very true. Yes.
So I want to look back at your earlier work history when you were teaching, say, snowboarding in Collingwood, or you were working in the hospitality. Do you have any experiences that you want to share that help shape your approach to your current career?
Um, it's very interesting when you're teaching snowboarding, especially at the ski club that I was working with. You work with a lot of kids who have a lot of opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely very different from coming into an industry where we have, hourly employees. But just working in a way to communicate with children, you kind of bring that with you all the way through. Or working in hospitality, the way that you have to communicate with all of the different coordinators that you work
Right.
with in weddings, such as, sometimes they would have external wedding coordinators, or the even the officiants at the wedding, or the wedding cake person.
Mm-hmm.
So communicating with them in a way that is a little bit outside of my realm of expertise, bringing that within this industry has really been beneficial. And especially with a lot of our shop employees we have a very multinational, very diverse group of people.
Right.
So learning not only the portions of their job, but also their backgrounds, and learning all of the different personalities and bringing those experiences in. It has definitely helped my communication style. It has definitely developed my leadership style, which is
Mm-hmm.
still developing. Um, it's been a very interesting road to get here.
It sounds like it. I recall on my earlier past work experiences, I learned a little bit about entrepreneurship. I learned about, like you said, dealing with people of various backgrounds, communication skills, and you know what? They all came in handy when the time came that that I was at the top of the helm. And I'm appreciative that I did have that opportunity. And I think we should encourage our younger audience to go out, get a part-time job. It doesn't matter to search something that you like to work. Like maybe you want to say, if you're working with kids, maybe at a daycare. If you want to figure out, maybe I want to work in construction, get a part-time job in the construction industry. All these, wonderful opportunities that you said are there for the taking, and you will finish off learning a lot, and you can apply that in new situations.
This is very true.
In a male dominated industry like both of ours, like how do you overcome the initial challenges of not being taken seriously by some of your contacts, especially you're the owner's daughter to boot, right?
Yes, this is true. So, for the first 2.5 years that I was here, I didn't use my maiden name at all because I didn't want people to know that I was associated with, our family business. And actually, interestingly enough, we hired someone that I worked very closely with, and it took him about a month to figure out that I was related to the owner. At which point, I thought, maybe I better
Oh, that's
start.
funny.
Yeah,
That's
maybe I
funny.
better start, saying that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it just being firm on what my position is, I have started introducing myself as, the project coordinator when I go to site meetings, so that I'm not mistaken as an admin assistant. I do hold a position where I wouldn't say it's a position of power, but it's a position where I'm not here to take your meeting minutes. I'm not here to get coffee for you.
Right.
I am here for a reason, and that reason is that I want to work with our team and your team to get this project completed on time and on budget.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that because I still get that. When we're on site, I might be wearing construction gear, and the same thing. Like, oh, can you help me? I'm looking for so and so, and I go, no, I'm not an administrative assistant. I'm here to do a duty, and then I will introduce what I'm here for. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize it was that. So I still get it, and I completely understand what you're saying. Sometimes being undercover boss, yeah, it would be nice to have that anonymity, and then it's your employees, they perceive you in a different way once they know who you are, the boss's daughter. It adds a lot of pressure on you.
It does, and I think in the beginning, I really did feel that I had to prove myself
Mm-hmm.
because I came in as someone who maybe wasn't interviewed the same way as someone who is just getting into the industry would
Right.
be. Getting to where I am has taken a lot of work and a lot of things going on in the background and a lot of juggling. And my biggest thing was I didn't want to be taken as, oh, she's only here because her dad
Right.
owns the company. So I've worked very hard to get to where I am.
Rightfully so. You have to earn your place and you have to earn respect once, your colleagues and the people that work for you understand that you really know your stuff. You won't get challenged anymore. And that's the greatest feeling to have when you're at that point in your life, in your career.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay. What have been some of the most rewarding aspects of working in the construction and steel industry for you?
Oh, so one of the big things that I've really enjoyed is hiring co-op students,
Nice.
bringing those younger people into our industry. As of yet, we have not had any applicants who have been female that want to work at least within our shop, but we have had some that have wanted to work within the office environment. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. The timing didn't work out to bring on a co-op student at all, so it's not like we chose a male over a female.
Hmm.
But going to the job fairs at the colleges and seeing all of these young women, especially who want to
Right.
come in and work in the construction industry, is very inspiring, especially when you go to some of these job fairs. It's a lot of international students.
Right.
So not only is it difficult for them to be taken seriously within Canada and, get a job, that they're also tens of thousands of kilometers away from their families. So
Right.
seeing them doing this on their own and getting into a position where they are able to work within Canada. And that is really rewarding.
That's really great to hear. So, if I am a young listener and I want to apply to your program, where would I go and search that information? Do you have it on your website or?
Yes, we do have a spot on our website for employment. If they are in the colleges, then often they have a job fair that we generally try to attend if we can. Um, it's funny, when we went to the job fair, I was handing out my personal business cards, and I had so many people email me personally because a lot of people were just directed to other companies where it was,
Right.
information at. So that was really nice to make that connection. And it was actually interesting that I remembered so many of those people. All of them left a lasting impression. The questions that they were asking were so insightful. And it was really nice as opposed to someone who would just come in and, drop off a resume or apply online. It's nice to be able to meet these people and see exactly who they are and what their aspirations are. But we do have a spot on our website that people can apply. We do,
Fantastic.
yeah, we do post specific jobs on the hiring websites, but for the most part it is through either the website or these job fairs.
Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes. So anybody that wants to look you up, they can ask and perhaps they will find an opportunity right at your facility there. That would be great. The construction and steel industry is very competitive, I can imagine. So, how do
Yeah.
you manage this competition and manage to stay ahead overall?
Oh, so it really turns into a numbers game, and our new president has an accounting background, so having him come in and be able to accurately identify where all of our costs are and where all of our costs are going has been eye-opening, for lack of a better term. Because you have these costs that you figure are associated with everything, and you update them when our steel prices change or our labor prices change.
Mm-hmm.
But going and actually seeing this analyzing of all of our time and our machinery and our utilities and everything like that, it's really the only way that not only can we stay competitive, but more than that, can we stay true to what our actual costs are.
Okay, that's great to know. And could you share some memorable moments or projects that have left a lasting impact on your career and perspective?
Yes, I can tell you about the good ones and the bad.
Let's hear them then.
Yeah, I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Yeah, sure.
The first project that I took on myself, we were building a very small project for our industry, and it was a retail spot. And it was one of those projects where I really do think that everything that possibly could have gone wrong went wrong. Everything from steel prices changing to the estimated erection time. We gave, a 2.5 week window, and suddenly this building was put up in like 3.5 days.
Wow.
Which makes it difficult for the other trades to follow us. And in the end, it was a very humbling experience.
I bet.
It was also one of the first projects where I had to stand up for myself as far as the client was involved, because every time I tried to speak in the meetings, he would just cut me off and again, not take me seriously. So when I got mad, I just might not have been the right thing to do, but I sat and I waited for him to finish his sentences. And then after about 30 seconds of this awkward silence, I said to him, "Oh, is it my turn now?" Oh. And yes.
Wow, he didn't like that, I bet.
I think he took me a little bit more seriously after that, because I had been railroaded several times before. Mm-hmm. And in the end, we ended up finishing the project. It was definitely over budget for us, but it was on time for the client, which is really important.
Yes, it is.
And I think that's probably one of those lasting memories for me that I will definitely hold with me for a very long time. The other project that I would definitely say, we built a very large warehouse, and the project manager on site, the senior project manager, is a woman, and it was one of the first large projects that I was involved in. Mm-hmm. And it was a really great experience working with a woman who works for such a large construction company. They are prevalent in not only Ontario, but all over Canada. And just seeing the way that she dealt with all of the trades on site, and she really did just make it look easy. Her communication style was very direct, but at the same time not condescending in any way. And I really think that I took a lot away from the experience of working with her, especially because our project, we were just about to start it when I started in October of 2020. And it lasted almost a year putting this building up. But I am still in contact with her. And the reason that I'm still in contact with her is just because she's great to bounce ideas off of. Mm-hmm. And she acted really in a mentorship capacity for me.
That is so, it's amazing to hear that, because I personally have experienced, like you, the good, the bad, the ugly. But there are so many people that we meet, especially now, more women are getting into our industries. And once you make that initial contact and you work on a project, it's like a lifelong network. And I do also do what you do. If I need something to bounce off of, like I have a nice Rolodex of professional women that I can contact and bounce these ideas off of. And it's really good to have for any of your needs, especially when you're kind of at a loss of how to proceed on something, or you're frustrated in a project.
Yeah, I think we all have to have those. The only way that we can learn is from other people as well as our mistakes. So, maybe you can talk to somebody about their mistakes and avoid the one in your life.
Well, thank you for so much for sharing those two, because everyone thinks They only see the outside perimeter of you if you're a successful individual. They don't see all the pitfalls, the obstacles, the face plants that we've done over the years. But we're still smiling, we still stand up. But it was a very educational experience for us, right? Not to repeat the mistakes of the past.
Exactly. Onward and upward.
100%. So, one thing you mentioned earlier in the podcast was about your family and the importance. So, how do you balance work and family? I know it's challenging for any person, especially an individual like yourself that has tremendous amount of responsibilities. What tips can you give for young people out there?
I think the biggest one is learning to take the time that you need for yourself as well as for your family. I have an incredibly supportive husband who his family also has a family business, third generation. So he is also very busy. But we work together and we make a really great team. Not only do we both work, I work more in a part-time capacity. I only work while my children are in school, but I do a lot remotely in the evenings. But we do have a competitive gymnast in our house who's at the gym 12 hours a week. And yeah, and my
congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, she's very, very busy with the gym. So taking the time for myself as well as just being really organized as far as our schedule goes. My husband and I sit down every weekend and plan who's doing our drop-offs and our pickups, as well as our meal planning and anything else that might come up. When we know what's going on and we're able to communicate those expectations and those needs, it makes for a much smoother ride.
And then that's what personally attracted me to entrepreneurship, that flexibility. And we're having 4 kids of my own. And it was very important for me to be home when they were home. And again, working remotely, scheduling appointments when, I was able to drop them off. They played hockey, competitive hockey. So
oh goodness, that's really busy.
A lot of hockey, right? And fortunately, we had the team was very tight. So there was always parents that had more time than other parents, and they would do all the driving around, which I was fortunate for that. But being able to set your hours and your time, so advantageous with a family. And your other point, putting yourself first and your needs, that's important because you mentally and physically have to be at your best to contend with all the challenges and responsibilities you have on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, and I think even with our staff, if there's a family issue, our response is always family comes first, because if you don't have that freedom and flexibility from your employer, it makes it very difficult for family life. We just had an employee who had a family emergency and had to be overseas for 3 weeks with like 2 days notice. Wow. So, and that's where the jack of all trades and master of none comes from. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of a mess to come back to, but we muddled our way through because that family role is imperative. Without our families, they're our biggest cheerleaders. So without our families, it just makes it so much more difficult.
Yeah, and you need to respect that, because if something is bothering one of your employees, then you know what, they're not be able to safely perform their tasks. And especially in your type of industry and mine, there could be a work-related injury if their mind is not in the game. So it's really important that they have a healthy household to report to and come to work with a clear mind, and they're able to focus on the tasks at hand.
Yes, very true.
At O, we strive to help women step into leadership roles. You've mentioned that being in a leadership role was initially challenging for you. How did you overcome some of your insecurities and become comfortable making decisions?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think it just comes with, those experiences of celebrating our successes and, kind of licking your wounds when you make those mistakes, but also learning from them. And, for me, I just had to take it one decision at a time. And a lot of the time I had to bounce those questions or concerns off of the people on our team. Our project manager,
Right.
I don't know how he deals with all of my questions, because if I don't know, I would rather find out rather than just say, make something up and have to, go back on that. Um, so you grow into the role little bit by little bit, and I definitely am not where I would like to be in the end. I still have a lot of learning and a lot of growing to do. But you just one decision at a time. Sometimes you have to take it a minute at a time, because there are a lot of questions and a lot of concerns and a lot of decisions that have to be made. So it's more a team environment, and collaborative than it is just me making those decisions.
The longevity in a career really depends on your fulfillment, both personally and professionally. So, your time here at Norak Steel, do you find that you are personally and professionally satisfied in your role today?
I am. I love what I do, and I love the people that I work with, and I find it very interesting, and I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly growing. And I think it also the meeting all of the new people, because every project we do has a whole new team on it, even if it
Mm-hmm.
is for a general contractor that we have worked with before. It's very rare for us to get the same project managers and the same consultants and all of the same team. So I think that is fulfilling for me, as well as I do like that our team, especially within our office, does stay for the long term. We have so many long-term employees with us. So you
Mm-hmm.
grow as a person, and you also get to know, what's going on in their personal lives and in the background of what's going on. So being friendly with them, as well as on a professional capacity.
Yeah, I really like that, connecting with your employees, especially the ones that we had quite a few of them where Royal Door was their first and only job, and they stayed with us for 4 decades. And we saw them, grow into the company, then have young families, their kids graduated from school, are married, have their own kids, and they've happily retired. So I find that personally fulfilling, being able to help families achieve their dream of, home ownership, being able to have a secure income, and helping their kids get a better life than they themselves. So that's how I find it rewarding personally.
It's true. We actually have an employee that works in our shop who just announced that he's retiring after 37 years. And
Oh, it's
he
amazing.
actually has a photo of him with my grandfather at his workstation. I know, 37
That's
years.
incredible.
It is. It is. So, when he came and started working here, I was a kid, like a very young child. And now seeing that, his kids are all grown up and everything like that, it's very nice to see.
And I'm glad you brought that message out too, because it just is a great example to show our audience that companies like ours are lifelong companies, where you start at a certain stage in your life and you end up finishing at a stage of life. It's not one of those careers where you're there for 10 minutes and then you're off. There's a lot of teamwork, companionship, and friendships are made, and it's overall it's a happy place to go to, and it's something that you see yourself doing day in and day out, not getting bored, and not being tempted to change careers or anything like that.
It can be. We also do have those people who come in and realize that this is not the industry for
Mm-hmm.
them, or a different opportunity comes up. And I really am a firm believer that things happen because of not only who you know, but where you are. So
For
it's
sure.
a time and place. And while I would love for all of our employees to stay, sometimes they do have to move on, and that's okay.
And it is, and you're grateful that they were there with the time they spent.
Exactly. You have to be. Without every single person in this industry and every single person that is in this building, we are nothing. Everyone has their job, and there are specific jobs. Actually, every single job out in our shop, I would personally not be able to do. So we rely on these people, and you have to show the gratitude.
I agree with that. Without our workforce, then you know what, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be able to offer the services that we do. And I always say that we are a team, and everyone is important and has a very special role in the company to ensure that we're able to produce and deliver product to high standards. So I'm grateful we're able to do that with them. If you were 20 years old again, like all of us, would you still choose the same career path? Why or why not?
I think I would be where I am now, but I don't necessarily know that I would have ended up here the same way. Mm-hmm. I really loved everything that I have done. I loved working in hospitality. I loved how busy it was. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the experiences. And, I loved being a stay-at-home mom and getting to watch my kids grow. I think the only thing that I might have done differently is if I had known when I was 20 years old that I was going to end up here, I probably would have gone about my education a little bit differently. Commerce is great, but something specific within the steel industry probably would have been beneficial.
That would have helped you out a bit more. And do you think any courses in business or marketing would have benefited as well? Just to give some sort of educational advice for our young audience.
Yes, definitely. So working where I am, I definitely needed those, the commerce courses. A lot of them that I took, I do use, the principles on a daily basis. The marketing, not so much. We don't have a marketing team inside here, so that we outsource. But the marketing that I took, I can't really say that I have used any of those skills towards this. The accounting that I took within commerce, definitely. You really have to know the ins and outs of what's happening, even though we do have an accounting manager within our company. I work very closely with her. Just trying to think of anything else within the courses that I took. But definitely, I would definitely take the steel courses. It would help.
just a bit, right?
Yes, definitely. Maybe just a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about your confidence. You mentioned that is a key factor in anything you do, really. Could you elaborate on some strategies to exude confidence, even when you may not feel it in a particular situation?
I think you just kind of have to fake it until you make it. And I'm better at that now than I was when I came into this position. I'm more willing to speak up within meetings, whether internally or externally now. And I think a lot of that comes with now knowing our industry, and not only our industry, but our product a little bit better. And that I owe to the team here and bringing me along and explaining all of the ins and outs and, even the contract reviews, things like that. Everything goes through our team before it gets sent out. But the confidence really comes from, okay, I've been in this situation before, I know how to handle it. Or I've dealt with someone with this type of personality before and I made it through, it's going to be okay.
Right.
And also the confidence to say, you can't treat me that way. You're not willing or to let someone yell at you or talk over you or anything like that. And realizing that my voice does have meaning is important. So having that confidence behind me now to say, okay, I have made mistakes before. Maybe this is a mistake. Maybe I've gone about this the wrong way. But being okay with that and learning something from it every step of the way.
Let's move on to, are there any books, quotes, or individuals who have greatly influenced your values or provided guidance in your journey?
Yes. So not only those, I hope it's okay, but I took a course specifically on leadership within construction for women. So that course, I think, bringing me together with different women and the values that they provided, especially because women are not generally leaders within the construction industry. So seeing my peers in the construction industry, whether it be in, some of them were in, renovations, and some of them were within the disaster area, and just being able to speak to them and figure out how to work towards our goals that was very insightful. I read a book called Getting to Yes, which is all about negotiation tactics. So that one was very interesting because it had a lot of insights that I hadn't really seen before, and just a different way of looking at negotiations. I would
Mm-hmm.
say that I am not a strong negotiator because
Okay.
I wear my heart on my sleeve. But it was very helpful in learning to have a little bit more of a poker face.
Yeah, I bet that one for sure.
And then as far as quotes, this one just keeps coming back to me all the time, and it's, I want to lead my life in a way where I have a backbone made of steel but a heart made of gold. And being able to stand up for myself, and not only for myself, for the people around me who need me to stand up for them, but also doing it with grace and in a way that I'm able to foster positive relationships going forward. I'm not someone who is willing to just cut someone out professionally or otherwise. I really do think that there are a lot of different ways that we can get to a positive end result. So, yeah, those ones.
So good. I like that one very much. How do you instill values and a strong work ethic in your own children or the younger generation?
Oh, my own children. We try really hard. Our kids, we have very high expectations for them. And sometimes they don't like that. But that is just something that they're going to have to live with. Because down the road, I think they will appreciate the fact that we do push them as hard as we do. Not necessarily at a school aspect because they try really hard, and I have really smart kids, and they do take pride in their work
Mm-hmm.
as far as it goes for their teachers. For us,
That's
sometimes they
good.
do, yeah, they try to dodge the jobs that we ask them to do a little bit sometimes. But with them, I have a saying, and I say, do it right or do it again. And my husband and I both try to follow through on that
Mm-hmm.
because if they don't live up to those expectations for us, I think it's really difficult for them to stand on their own 2 feet and deal with those consequences. They are young. My daughter's 13 and my son is 9. And I think they also both get that work ethic from other places. Like my daughter is a competitive gymnast, so
Mm-hmm.
she has to deal with her coaches, and if she's not meeting those expectations there, she has to find a way to do that.
Right.
And she has a really great peer group that holds her accountable for a lot of things. And my son is just getting into music, and so he has his instructors, and there are times when he just doesn't want, I don't want to do this lesson today, but this is a commitment that we have made, and we can't just duck out of that commitment because there are other people that are counting on us in that
Right.
situation. And he's also involved in Scouts Canada. So I think it's been really interesting with him seeing the different types of children who end up in those programs because they are very affordable programs, and there are people from a lot of different walks of life, which is great because he gets to see the great aspects of our life as well as the opportunities that we don't have within our life.
Mm-hmm.
um, and he's able to foster those relationships with so many different kids, and I think going forward he would love to be more involved in that. And with scouts, I think it's the same type of thing. Do it right or do it again.
Right.
Because, if you're going camping and you set up your tent and it isn't
Of
done
course.
properly, you're going to have to do it again anyway.
Or face the weather consequences,
Face
right?
the consequences, exactly.
That's good. That's very inspirational words for everyone that's listening. I just wanted to ask you, how do you envision leaving a positive impact on the construction steel industry, aligning with your values and principles?
Well, I think all of that comes from the way that my grandfather used to do business. So he always said, my word is my bond. He would always make deals with a handshake, and we
Mm-hmm.
all know that that is not the way that life is anymore. If it's not in a contract with all of the I's dotted and all of the T's crossed, then it is no good. But I like to think that I am a person of my word. And in doing that, I think you just you inspire the people who are coming up in this industry, because the last thing that anybody needs is for someone to waste their time or not live up to the expectations. And I mean, my dad was the same way. My dad is that type of a leader. And, you know, if he said something was going to get done, then something was going to get done. And that's just the way that I'm trying to live my life. I'm sure that there are times when I am failing that because I'm running in 17 different directions at a time, but it's something that I strive to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's important if you give your word on something to maintain it, because it just keeps respectability about yourself and your company throughout the industry and other professionals around you.
Yeah.
So what exciting projects or goals do you have in the future?
I think in the future, I would really like to take those steel courses. And I did really enjoy the leadership for women course that I took. The big takeaway from that one was transformational rather than transactional leadership. So trying to get to a point where, you know, I would love to be a leader that does transform rather than, you know, you do this and I'll do this. So I think my goal is to work with our new president to get to a point where I do feel comfortable making those leadership decisions. He's been with us for 2 months now, and he's a really great leader within our industry. He does have a lot of experience, and I could learn a lot from him.
That's great. So as we close off, Allison, we're incredibly thankful for your time and insights. Any final thoughts or advice you'd like to leave our community with?
I would love to see more women get into this industry. A lot of the women that I have met within the steel industry have come in with family ties, and it would be really nice to see, you know, the opportunities open up for women who don't necessarily fall into these roles. It's a very interesting industry, and it's not that big of an industry, but there are so many opportunities where women can come in and, you know, bring so much to the table, bring these different communication styles and these different leadership styles, and it would be really nice to see more of them.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. Hopefully the word will spread and we'll get more women interested in the steel industry. And for our listeners who want to connect and learn more about you, where can they find you, Allison?
So I am on LinkedIn, Allison Ober-Barker, and I would be happy to share my email address with you if anybody wanted to get in touch with me that way.
Awesome. Yeah. Only Women Entrepreneurs is here to support and uplift women on their entrepreneurial and alternative career journeys. To discover more of our rich pool of resources, visit our website, onlywomenentrepreneurs.com, for insights, interviews, and guidance tailored specifically for women navigating the business world. Here you can also find my personal development and business courses to help you on your journey. Whether you want to start a new business or you want to get to the next level of your career, I can help guide you every step of the way. Don't hesitate and book your free consultation with me today at onlywomen.entrepreneurs.com. Follow us on social media at Only Women Entrepreneurs to stay connected with like-minded women who are building their dream lives. We're here to provide the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to achieve success. We only get stronger as a community if you share. Make sure that you let everyone know in your circle that we're here. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.